All right, folks, we have a great discussion here on all things marketing. So welcome to Digital Sparx Marketing. And this is Bob Tripathi, and I have a great guest today, someone who's been there, done that, and here we are. And I'm pleased to introduce Darryl Praill, who's the Chief Marketing Officer at Vanilla Soft. So Darryl, welcome. As I said, I love your studio setup. So of course you do this all the time. And I know currently you're the Chief Marketing Officer at Vanilla Soft, but if you don't mind, please introduce yourself, your role, and what you did before that.
Bob, baby, thanks for having me on the show. I'm thrilled to be here, dude. As you said, I'm the Chief Marketing Officer. I'm at Vanilla Soft. For those of you going, well, who the hell's Vanilla Soft and what do you do? Vanilla Soft is a sales engagement platform. So we kind of sit between your marketing automation and your CRM. And we make sure that your sales development reps, take every single MQL that your marketing team gives you and calls them as many times and emails and social touches to the right cadence and the right frequency. And that's what we do. We would compete with vendors like SalesLoft and Outreach. So that's what we do. That's the context. That's where I'm coming from. My background in a nutshell, I'm actually classically educated as a computer programmer and did that for ballpark 6 years or so before I segued over into becoming a sales engineer and then a product manager and then product marketing and then product and then just pure marketing and then sales and marketing. And so I've been a VP of sales multiple times. I've been a VP of marketing and or a CMO as I am today multiple times. So I'm all about the revenue. I've worked with small and large companies, including companies like Sybase, now SAP, Cognos, now IBM. And I had the good fortune or the lack of good fortune to be acquired or to acquire, to go public, to get to raise a lot of money. I've raised about almost $100 million. So it's been a good time. The white hair, though, came honestly. That's my background.
Wow, but the good thing is you still have some hair because I know a
That's
lot of
what I
people
say.
don't have any. So it's a good luck.
That's well
But
said.
no, this is great. I meet a lot of marketing leaders who come from branding background and design background and operations background. So it's great that you come from a sales background. So at the heart of everything is to make money, especially when it comes to sales and marketing. So I think that's a great background in itself. And we'll talk more about it. But I think, Darryl, what I would like to focus on today is probably we can talk about, say, a day in the life of a CMO. So you've been in this role for many years. You've done so many multiple things before that. So for our viewers, what exactly a day in the life of a CMO is?
Oh my goodness, so much time you got, dude. And I don't think a day in the life of a CMO is any different than a day in the life of a typical marketer, for example. I just think it's, we're just dealing with maybe a little more responsibility. We're dealing with bigger staff, definitely a much bigger budget, and definitely I have to be accountable to the board of directors and to my peers on the executive team. The thing that's really different, I guess, is a handful of thoughts here, is the buck stops with me. That's the first part, So if you're a graphic designer, you're a writer, you're a content producer, you're a pay-per-click kind of person, whatever your role might be, if you, a lot of you can keep your heads down and, you may get busted. You're not generating enough pay-per-clicks or you're not generating enough organic traffic with your SEO, yada, yada, yada. But, you showed traction and you're good. With me, if I'm not generating enough leads to feed the sales team, if I'm not getting enough inbound traffic, it's really simple. It's like, you've got a runway of maybe 6 months when you start a job to prove you can do it. And after that, there's a reason that the average tenure of a CMO in our industry is 18 months. So you better make an impact within that first six months minimally, and by a year you better be able to demonstrate a huge ROI in your activities. So a day in the life is often doing a handful of things. It's making sure that my team is executing the programs and the campaigns on time and on budget. And if they're not, I got to fix that. And if we're not getting the desired results, maybe a campaign is to do a webinar. and we're not getting enough registrations, then to troubleshoot with them and how to drive registrations. So that's the tactical hands-on. Then there is I'm communicating with my sales counterparts on the lead flow and the quality of the leads to make sure we're in alignment and they understand and they're actually following up the leads I gave them. And I'm making sure that the service level agreement between marketing and sales is being upheld every single day. My head of sales and I talk multiple times a day on that front. And then the other part is, I'm accountable to, as I said, the CEO and the board to make sure we're delivering upon strategic initiatives and we're progressing forward. And I better hit those milestones or I'm in trouble. And the last thing is I'm making sure that me personally am making sure that the company is getting the awareness and the visibility it needs, whether that be in the press or on social media, to grow our hype. And it's just a juggling ball back and forth of these disciplines all the time. And then the rest of the day is troubleshooting. Like if the leads aren't coming in, what's the problem? Is it in the marketing automation tool? Is it in our pay-per-click campaigns? Like where's the system broken? What do we need? Can we fix that in-house? Do we need to get a contractor? So a lot of firefighting.
Yeah.
But if there was one theme I could say I do all day long, because, I'm not the person who's writing the content typically. I'm not the person who's optimizing that web page typically. The one theme I do all day long is I communicate and I manage expectations. I do it with my team, so I manage down. I do it with my colleagues, I manage across, and I do it with the people, my overlords, if you will. So I manage up. And I am constantly communicating. That I get home at night and my lips and jaw are sore and tired because that's all I do.
Beautiful, beautiful. I think that's great, and I think you throw a lot of insights. But I want to take you back to the first point that you made, is the tenure of a CMO. We have seen it's 12 months, 18 months, and part of the reason is what you mentioned is, the board, the CEO, the CEOs, they feel that the chief CMOs are not making enough of an impact. And when it comes as an impact, which means that marketing is not driving enough revenues or is not playing nice with the sales. So in your viewpoint, how can CMOs be a better revenue driver, right? And that is what you just mentioned earlier, is how do you manage expectations, both up and down? So how do you position yourself to achieve that?
Oh my gosh. Okay, how much time you got? Okay, so let me tell you what I do when I start a job, because this is most important, and then this becomes the driver for the rest of my tenure.
Right.
The first thing I do is I identify who are my stakeholders. So typically, it's what we talked about, right? My stakeholder is going to be, for me, it's going to be my VP of sales. That person and I are tied at the hip on generating revenue. My stakeholder is going to be my CEO and or the board, so leadership. What are they expecting from me? And then stakeholders could be other people on a kind of a tangential area, like maybe human resources. And I go around to them, each one of them, and I simply ask them the opening days, what do you expect from marketing? And it's an open-ended question, because I want to get, do they understand marketing? Do they have preconceived notions? Because I want to understand what I'm dealing with. I expect marketing to issue press releases. Full stop. That's it. Okay. That's a really bad understanding of marketing, but that's what you understand. Gotcha. All right. So I have that conversation. Then I ask this next question. I'll say, what will have happened from your point of view in 3, 6, 12 months for you to say, Darryl was a great hire. I'm so glad we brought him on board. He's doing exactly what I hoped he would have done. And I let them give me those answers, and I make sure it's measurable. So it can't be something like, for example, what people just know about us more. In 12 months' time, people know who we are. Mm-hmm. Well, that's subjective. Okay, fine. People know who we are based on what tangible metric? Mm-hmm. Is it impressions? Is it what? Mm-hmm. So I do that. And then, so that's the first part. So now I understand what I'm dealing with. And those are the expectations I have to meet, or I actually correct them when we come to an agreement. And I also know the timelines. Mm-hmm. The next thing I do is I go to sales, the guy, the gal that I'm locked step in step with, and I say, okay, let's talk about what do we agree is a definition of a lead? And what do we agree are the service level agreements between you and I? If I give you that lead based on how you've defined it, you will do what? And I can hold you accountable in your team for doing that. And if you don't do that, then I can raise my hand and say, you're a bad person. So once we have that agreement, now I'm set for success. Because let's look at why a CMO gets let go. Why do they let go? They get let go because they don't drive enough revenue. Mm-hmm. They let go because no one knows who they are. Or they get let go because the company doesn't move forward as a whole, and it's kind of we're cleaning house. So fair enough. If we're not driving enough revenue, what a marketer's excuse is? Well, I made all these leads. I'm off the hook. I made these leads. Sales didn't do anything with them. And sales is going to say, well, the leads were crap. And it's a he said, she said point of view, right. And no one's going to win. So where does leadership side? They're going to side 99% of the time with sales because they're the revenue machine and we can't lose them. Whereas if I said, we agreed these were the definition of a lead, I gave them to you, you accepted them. I generated marketing qualified leads, MQLs. You did an SAL, a sales accepted lead, and you took it. Therefore, the lead couldn't be crap because you accepted it. That's a process. I'm off the hook. Next, I can show you that you didn't do 7 touches in 7 days, whatever that sales cadence was. You're averaging 2 to 3 attempts, and you're only calling 1 and 2 leads that I give you. That's on you, not on marketing. So if I'm basically planning in advance to make sure I have the data I need to prove that I didn't drop the ball. That's the huge part. And then I put together a marketing plan that makes sure that I factor in the milestones that the stakeholders said they wanted achieved in the first 3, 6, 12 months. Mm-hmm. And I make sure I hit them. Right? If I've done that right, my tenure is safe. Now we can debate how successful I was. You know, did I meet? Did I nominally exceed? Did I blow it out of the water? That can be subjective. But if I do that up front, then my 18-month tenure will become 2 years, 3 years, whatever.
Great. I think matching expectations, getting people on the same page is what I'm hearing. In terms of leadership, like CEOs at a CEO level, at a C-suite level, we hear a lot about branding, like what you just mentioned, you know, like, oh, we want everyone to know about our company. But then how do you measure it? Like, how do you align with the CEO that, okay, here is where we were? Is it the NPS score, or how do you go about matching that expectations?
Oh my gosh, there's lots of ways. And most companies go into, they don't know what their NPS score is. That's the first part, right? Many of them are looking up NPS. In fact, there's people right now listening and watching this who are looking up NPS. I guarantee it. I'll make it easy, folks. It's your net promoter score.
Sorry.
So
I should have done that.
No. It's all good. It's all good. How do we do it? Again, that's part of that communication and part of that conversation up front. So, you know, I would have that conversation with the stakeholders. If that comes up, I would say, you know, as measured how? So your question is cool. Some will say NPS, but even NPS is a little bit of my hand, right? Think about that. If I were to say on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to recommend Vanilla Soft? And I do that 3 months into my job. And then 6 months later, I do it again. And 6 months later, I do it again. Let's say our score doesn't go up. Okay, is that marketing's fault, or is that customer success fault, or is that support's fault, or does the product just suck? It's possible, right? So part of my job is to say, okay, you want to measure it by NPS? If that's how you want to measure it, then I need to be able to voice my concerns about the customer success experience or the support experience or the product quality. Do I have permission for that? And if I have permission for that, then great, we can use NPS. If I don't have permission because you want to have fiefdoms, that's your call. You're the CEO. Don't measure me on NPS because I can only influence that so much. That's the first thing, right? The second thing is a lot of it is the obvious stuff. It's, you know, it's what is your what's your awareness? If I did a random survey, you know, what we can do that and figure out what my awareness is. Other things that are more tangible though are things like how many reviews do I have in sites like Capterra or G2 Crowd? That's an example, right? And are they trending up? That's another part is, you know, what's a big one, the most obvious one is what's my website traffic, like my organic traffic, right? Or another one is more subtle, is what's my average cost per click? So if I'm doing a good job, I'm going to pull the competition out of the woodwork, and they're going to bid on my terms and on my brand, and my cost per click on Google AdWords is actually going to rise because we're having success. So if when I started, that cost per click was $10, and a year later that same cost per click is $30, there's a good chance I was able to influence that because I was making a lot of noise on behalf of the company, and we became a target of the competition. Lots of ways to measure that. But again, that communication is you have that conversation with them so that you know what to monitor and you can report against it. If you don't know what to measure, then you're going to set yourself up for failure. If you know what to measure, then it's very easy to define your programs and your campaigns and actually respond and monitor in real time.
No, that's great. So folks, for those of you couldn't quite follow, but what Darryl was mentioning in terms of paid search was the unbranded keywords. So if somebody's typing in Vanilla Soft, if it was $10 per click, and after he started, if it's $30 per click, that means the brand is doing great, even in the competitive world. So this is great. This is great on the other side. Now, let's talk a little bit about building a team. So when you're building your marketing team, your marketing function, who are your core pillars when you look at it? So let's say you just started, when you started 2-3 years back at Vanilla Soft, what is the first thing you did? Like, these are my core team. This is what I need to have.
Oh my goodness. That's a brilliant question, Bob. I don't know if I've been asked that question before. A couple things I did right away. I made sure I had an ops team who could run all my tech stack and ensure that my website was up to date, that anything that we do, say from a content creation or whatnot, that my ops team's able to do the correct analysis, keyword optimization. So, if I'm going to write a blog, I'm going to write a piece of content, I'm going to go back to my ops team and say, what are the right keywords to follow on this, yada, yada, yada. Make sure we set it up in the systems. So ops is huge, especially in marketing automation, but also things like SEO, also things just around optimizing all your content. That's huge. Second thing I did was I hired a campaign person. So you're going to physically make sure that we have a regular schedule of campaigns and that we're optimized on our processes. So we have a repeatable process. So this is really important. So if you think about this for a second, I have one individual or one team of individuals who all they do is campaigns, rinse and repeat every month. And another one who makes sure all of my systems are working so I can measure. And then between them, I got them together to say, okay, is our data healthy? Do we have agreement on how we're going to track our progress? What are the channels we're going to track? Is it email? Is it, search engine marketing? Is it SEO? Is it events? And then within that, what are my lead sources, my lead sub-sources? What are my target verticals? Do we have a dictionary of all the terms that we can measure across the board? And then do we have templates of processes that we can rinse and repeat? So if any one of you got hit by a bus, we're good to go. So this was my foundation I did right away. And that whole making sure the data was clean and the data structure, the data dictionary was consistent, actually was an iterative process. It took us candidly a year and a half to get right, because what always happens is about 3 months or 6 months later, someone's going to ask you a question. You're going to go, oh, sugar, we didn't track that. That's a great question. Why didn't we track that? We need to go start tracking that. So it took a year and a half before we finally nailed it down. Those were the core pillars. Now, if I would go one step further, I took this role on personally, but this may not be everybody's comfort level. You need somebody to be the brand of the company. And that often means social media these days, right? So I would get somebody who was just a genius at working the social media channels, developing the connections, etc. I took that role on and I owned it. So, but those were my 3 tenets I looked at. And part of what you need to understand is that they all work together. So, for example, my 2 biggest competitors the category of sales engagement is exceptionally hot. It's the number 2 inquiry according to Gartner or Forrester. Number 1 is CRM. It used to be number 2 is marketing automation. That's now number 3. Number 2 is sales engagement. So we're in a hot category. My 2 biggest competitors have each raised $250 million in funding. They got a lot of money. They can throw money at everything. I haven't raised $250 million. I've raised 1% of that. 1%. Yet, on social media, we're able to kick their behind because it's not a money thing. It's just about a doing thing.
Right.
So those were the big 3 cores that we did that we focused on. And then we branched out from there. After that, it was like, okay, we're really rocking. Now we need a content writer. Okay, now we're really rocking. We need a full-time video crew because we're making so much content. And so, but all those other positions fill those 3 roles.
Nice, beautiful, beautiful. So when you go about hiring and, in the hiring and retaining people, what's your philosophy like? Take B players and make them into A, or take A players and expect and sink and swim kind of a thing? What's your philosophy like?
I'm more of a B into an A, and I'll tell you why, right? So I'm a firm believer that if you've got the right foundation, the right natural curiosity and desire to understand how to become a master of your craft, but you're only at a B, I can coach you and I can give you the opportunity and I give you the budget to make you an A. So what I look at first and foremost is I look at some stupid basic things. And you're going to laugh at me when I tell you this, but it's a marketing thing, okay? When I get your CV, there better not be a typo on it. I don't care how kick-ass you are. If there's a typo on it, you're gone. And you could be a developer, and that's okay. But in marketing, no typos. Grammar's got to be hot. I look at your CV, and I look at the soft skills. Like, okay, how is this CV laid out? Do I see it? Is it got a visual balance to it? Do I see a rhyme and reason and why they've done it this way? Do I see a call to action? Does this CV express that no matter if it's the first job out of school, they've been doing this for 20 years, that they just have a knack around marketing? I don't care what your background is. If it has that, you've got my attention. Then I do the next thing. I go on LinkedIn and I say, are you on LinkedIn? What does your profile look like? Are you posting? Who are you connected with? If I see that you're actually just there, I'm like, okay. So they understand, and then I go on Twitter and do the same thing, but really it's LinkedIn for us on B2B. Right away, you're a rock star. You are in that top 5% already. So now it's just, let's have a conversation one-on-one. And if I dig you, if I like you, then you're in. I'll take a B, and I will make you an A. I will give you that opportunity. But
no, that's great. One of the things I see is the resume file names. If how they have named their resume file name, it's a very subtle indicator. But if somebody's applying for let's say a content or a SEO role, and if their file names are underscore, that means they don't know SEO. Because if you haven't SEO'd your own resume, I don't know. That's just my thing.
But I would flip it around. Okay, so I agree with you. But imagine the file name said, "You should hire Darryl Praill.pdf."
Yeah.
Wow, or whatever, those kind of stuff. That's great. If you've gone the next step and you've actually linked to a video, imagine you submit the application maybe through a formal channel, but then they go on LinkedIn and they send me a personalized video. Hey, Darryl, just sending you, a video because I sent the application in, but I just want you to know this is why I rock and why I want to work for you. Stupid things like that show me they have a marketer's mind.
Right, absolutely. Like, I remember 15 years back when I was actually, working for others, I had a chart on how much revenues and how many SEO keywords I drove, and there was a hockey stick chart in my resume. And I remember everyone would be like, oh my God, wow, I've never seen it. And I would be like, really? I thought it's normal, But
you thought it was common sense, right? That's because you're thinking like a marketer. And what's cool about that, what you've just done there, this is what I would dig, is that you're showing that because you understand you need to generate an ROI. Like I've had a lot of content writers as an example, or graphic designers say, look at my piece. Isn't it like kick-ass? Yeah, maybe it's a great document and maybe it's really well written. But if it doesn't connect with my audience or doesn't have a call to action or it's not keyword optimized or it doesn't have the right layout, I don't care.
Right.
It's got to connect with the audience. Do you know your audience?
Yeah.
Because if you don't, then you should go back to school.
Yeah, there's no gray area, right, when it comes to this. So, Darryl, how much time do you spend coaching on a weekly basis to your team as a CMO, as a leader, like on a need basis, weekly, monthly? How do you go about? What's your philosophy around that?
That's a really good question. So my immediate reaction was not enough. I'm sure if anybody on my team were to watch this right now, they might start laughing at that question. I do it two ways. We have a weekly staff meeting, and in that weekly staff meeting, I like to make sure everybody knows what's going on and why we're doing things. So even though, again, I'll pick on the content writer doesn't care what we're doing on a trade show. Right? They're writing their white papers and their ebooks. I want them to know what's going on and why that matters. I want them to have the big picture so they can see how their contribution fits into the overall picture. So I use that as a soft coaching and mentoring side. I also use it as a chance to let others speak up. Oh, so-and-so, you've done a great job here. Tell us what you did there, or what do you think we should do here? So I like to have the team work collaboratively to brainstorm issues. So that's kind of just to keep the team mojo going and keep them working together. So that's kind of the big picture. One-on-one coaching, if I see they need it, I will proactively do it. But for the most part, I'm like, I'm reactive, right? So if they come to me with, again, maybe an ebook, I'll say, okay, now, you know what you can do with this? You know what you should have done with this? You know what's the next step? You need to talk to so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so because we can take this, and now we can take this ebook and we can make it a podcast, we can make it a webinar, we can go to pay-per-click and we can actually do a campaign around it, and we can do the whole thing. And this is all because your piece of content, your ebook rocks. So let's work with them together so you get exposed to that. So I like to cross-pollinate a lot, but no, I do not have, like in my sales background, I would intentionally role play with my reps every day, every week. There's no role-playing going on here.
On the marketing.
On the marketing side, no. But I go to them every day. I try to go to them every day and say, what's up? What are we doing? Any questions? Need anything from me? And then I give them all permission because sometimes I'm a little ADD. No disrespect to those who have ADD, where there's so many fires or distractions going on, and I will tell them, if you need me, you have permission to stalk me, hunt me, walk with me through the halls, corner me in the bathroom. I don't care. Tell me what you need. I will get it for you, but sometimes you just have to chase me down. But you've got permission because you're on my team. So I would never hire a wallflower. I want somebody to physically pursue me so they can be masters at their craft.
Right. You're on the Mayflower, right?
Yes.
So as a leader, how do you match your current monthly, quarterly targets with your sales, your leads, your MQLs, your SQLs, while also keeping an eye on the future, what's down the intercept, like new technology, where we need to go, where we are? How do you manage that? Because that's what a leader's role is, which is what you do. So how do you manage two things,
It's not a perfect science. I wish it was. I'm always looking to make it better. My gosh, I'm looking to make it better. We track every single lead that comes in. And because we have that data dictionary we talked about early on with the ops people, I can track it down. I can break it down by lead source, by lead subsource. So a lead source could be events, and a subsource could be Dreamforce. I'm making this up. You get the idea, right? And then I can cross-reference that by list sources, so I know which lists drive which leads. And I can drill all the way down in multiple ways. I can tell you what my cost per lead is by channel. Right. So for example, right now my cost per lead is top of mind, so I could be off a little bit, but cost per lead on pay-per-click for me is roughly $335 per click. it's expensive for space run because it's hot.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas on any kind, if I'm bringing in on an event, on a subsource like a webinar, my cost per lead is $6, right? And my organic is a different price again. I know my pay-per-click, even though it's expensive compared to, say, my webinar, converts at a higher conversion rate,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I know the numbers, and that's been my biggest pain in the behind to get my head around and say we're still working on doing that a better job. And I can map that all the way through the funnel. So I can work backwards. I can tell you which leads from what channels became not just MQLs that I'm delivering, but SQLs and then win-loss deals, right? Mm-hmm. So I can actually tell you the cost of acquisition so that when we're looking to go into new markets or we want to hit a certain, revenue number, I can use that math to work backwards on what do I need to do, right? How many people do I need to have at a webinar or at a trade show or doing a pay-per-click campaign to actually achieve this goal or a combination thereof based on historical numbers? Mm-hmm. So I can do all that, and that number is, we share that with the whole team. But you're right, justifying that spend is challenging. I've had bosses in the past who just see spend. They don't see the ROI, even though you can give them the numbers. And what I've learned to do over time is to take jobs with organizations who understand it's not a spend, it's an investment. An investment should have an ROI. So if I come to you and say, I want to do this show that wasn't on our plan, this just come to my, awareness, it's going to cost us $50,000. If I stop there, then, my CFO or my CEO is going to say, no. But if I said, but based on historicals, this is what I expect to happen, and I can work backwards on how many leads I'll probably get and how many of those will become MQLs, SQLs, and deals, so I can show a cost of acquisition, and I can show, the average revenue on an annualized basis, and I can, because we're a SaaS company, I break that out maybe over 3 years, because our average tenure as a customer is just over 4 years, so I'm still being conservative, so I can say, there's the ROI. Yeah. Then they go, okay. So long way of saying, I go looking for employers who understand that. I avoid the ones who don't. Mm-hmm. The biggest challenge I do have right now, Bob, to be candid with you, is attribution. So it's tough for me because I don't have a formal attribution model in place because we're trying to keep our tech stack costs down. So I don't have an enterprise stack with enterprise costs associated with that. Right now, I've chosen to use first touch attribution. Right. So that's my. I need to get better at understanding all the influences through the buyer's journey, so I can prorate the assist. Got it. Yeah. The assist. Well said.
Yeah. No. I've had bosses in the past, who would say, "Oh, this is how much we are making money through paid media. Let's double the budget, so we'll get the same CPLs through that." But they forget that there is a thing called law of diminishing returns, right? So it's like, why can't we spend more? So I hear you totally.
Yeah. We went through the old, we literally doubled our pay-per-click because we were doing so well on it for a period of time there. And we were already spending a lot of money, like a lot of money. Yeah. We doubled it. And it was exactly what you just said, right? It was like, instead of going, linear, it kind of went up and tapered. And you get to the point of saying, okay, we've saturated it. That's as far as we can go. And
the world is not as big as we think it is. Right?
It is not as big as we think. Yes, it's very true.
So this is one last question before I let you go. What are the technologies or in the marketing space that's really excited? Keeping you up as well as making you really excited. Say in 1 year, 2 years down the road, like anything. Like I'm sure AI could be one of them, but anything that you're seeing that's super exciting in our world.
The AI stuff I'm interested in. I'm a little bit of a realist, I think. What people forget about with AI, and this is or machine learning, this is the irony. I'm a marketer talking to other marketers right now, is don't believe the marketing. For AI to work, you need a massive data set
Mm.
A massive data set. So unless you're doing a ton of transactions, like for example, maybe you're dropping, $100,000 a month on pay-per-click. Now you've got a lot of traffic. You can look at that. Then you can say, great. But if I'm dropping $5,000 a month on pay-per-click, then AI isn't going to help you nearly as much because my data size is so much smaller.
Right.
So you got to just, don't get, be wary of the shiny object syndrome. So AI, I'm intrigued to watch how it's going to work. For me, the biggest thing that I love right now, I'm the most excited about is buyer intent. Buyer intent signals, buyer intent tools. How can I find the buyers? Because that allows me to find the buyers much earlier in the funnel, much earlier before they come to me. It sounds stupid. One of the things we're doing right now, as we talk about this, is Google has the ability, based on a user's search history, that when they go to YouTube, you can preload the pre-roll based on their search history. That's an intent signal. If I was, a consumer example, if I was searching for blue cars, suddenly when you go watch a video on, what happened on the news last night, here's a pre-roll for a blue car. It's weird how that is, right? So that's one example. Then you have buyer intent signals, whether it be social touches or review sites. The classic one, G2 is really big for review sites. So if I know that somebody's gone and reviewed my competition, that's an intent signal that they're probably looking at making a decision. Right. I should reach out to them, right? So the whole idea of reviews and I'm not reviews, sorry, of intent signals is a game changer to me that I'm trying to get my head around and adapt and take advantage of before the competition does.
Yeah.
That's the biggest one for me.
Yeah, no, I think one of my industry friends from San Francisco, she founded this company called Sixth Sense.
Yeah, I know them well. Yeah.
Yeah, Amanda. So yeah, that is a platform got really traction. But this has been great, Darryl. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you would like to talk about, or just give a tip or anything?
I'll throw one thing out there, and then I'm done. Any advice, because it was all about the day in the life of a CMO, so we began, right? So this is my advice to you, those who want to be a CMO or those who are working through the ranks to become a CMO. You will never be a credible CMO if you can't lead by example, all right? So what I mean by this is this, all right? Your job is not to delegate. Your job is to do. So I laugh with my team because they cringe when I do this, but I'll tell my video people, I can edit a video.
Yeah.
And if you're not around, I'll do it. And it won't be nearly as good as you do it, but I can edit a video. I can write copy still. I can go set up the landing page and design it. I can go pull the list. I can go update the website. I can do all of this. All right. Not nearly as good as any of you because this is what you do full time. Whereas I see too many CMO wannabes who are infatuated with, I just want to own the strategy and I just want to delegate down. And it's like strategy is like 5% of my day. The rest of the day is get shit done.
GTDs, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you want to build a team that will be loyal to you, that will work for you, that will go that extra mile when you have to ask them to do that, it's all about leading from the front. Right. And the only other thing I would say to them is give these people credit. It's not about you. So if you're in an executive meeting and they say, that was a great job you did, they're all that, whatever. Yeah, that was all Susie or that was all Billy. All right. You never ever have to say, yeah, that was me, or I was part of that. I told them what to do. That's irrelevant. They expect that from you. You're the frickin' CMO. You hired these people.
Right.
So give the people their dues because they worked hard. They did do the thing. They went above and beyond. Make sure the whole company knows that those people are stars. So the irony is they will work it backwards, the rest of the company, and go, well, Darryl hired that person. He that person's awesome, but that person wouldn't be here. Darryl saw something in them that we didn't see. In a way to go, Darryl. So those are the two things, lead by doing it and make sure you spread the wealth out and acknowledge the people who are helping make you and the organization a success.
Wish our politicians would do more of that, you know.
Oh,
We'll be
don't get me going,
incredible.
Bob. Don't get me going.
But this is great, Darryl. Thank you so much. And how can our viewers connect with you? At Darryl Praill on LinkedIn, right?
Yeah, Darryl Praill on LinkedIn. Give me a shout out. I'm always putting new content out all the time. The other one is Twitter. My handle, you'll love it. It's opinionated, but I'll
Okay.
spell it for you. It's OHPIN, the number 8 TED.
Oh,
So I always have an opinion, and it's great because it sparks conversation, which is the whole point of social media. So,
right.
or you can email me. You can find my coordinates. Just Google my name. You will find contact information everywhere. It's out there.
This is great, Darryl. Thank you so much for your time, your insights today. And, you know, I'll make sure I'll get a better recording studio next time because I'm really feeling pale. But this is great. Thank you so much, Darryl. Talk to you soon. Thank
Take
you,
care, Bob.
folks. Bye-bye.